Hello, everyone. Philip Lee returning with a new episode of Civil War Chat. Today is the 15th of May, and our topic today is who were the Anglo Saxon racists? So to learn about this, you can get information from my book, Southern Reconstruction by Philip Lee, $29 at Amazon. $26 on Amazon, $29 from me if you'd like an autographed copy. Email me, Phil, PHIL _Lee, LEIGH. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the presentation. America's cultural elites who condemn the term Anglo-Saxon as a racist trope when it is used in connection with Confederate memorials, usually don't realize 2 points. First, it was rarely inscribed on the statues. Second, leading Northern abolitionists were among those wanting to keep America reserved for the Anglo-Saxon race. Now, the academics give you the impression it was just Southerners that felt that way. And then there really was only, a few instances where that was used in the inscriptions. But regarding the first point, nearly all of the 1,700 public Confederate statues were erected over the past 150 years were memorials to the loved and lost. That's nearly all of them. The youths were honored for defending their homeland. The number of dead is almost incomprehensible to the modern American. 5% of the South's white population was killed during that war. If the same loss ratio is applied to a hypothetical American war today, the number of dead soldiers alone would total almost 17 million. Nearly 3 times the 6 million slaves killed in World War II Nazi concentration camps. And a lot of us know that 6 million figure, but very few of us understand that if the Civil War were repeated today, America's casualties, just in the South alone, would total 17 million if applied to the population of the entire United States. Yet the inscription on the typical Confederate soldier statues, those inscriptions are typically inoffensive from a racial perspective. Consider the one in Benton County, Arkansas, which was erected in 1908 and funded by private donations, not tax dollars. It simply read, "They fought for home and fatherland. Their names are borne on honor's shield. Their records are with God." That's it. Nothing about Anglo-Saxon race, nothing about racism or white supremacy, just that. Benton County's population changed hardly at all during the 52 years after that statue was erected in 1908. So from 1908 to 1960, it hardly changed from the 36,000 souls it had in 1960. Thereafter, however, Walmart became a major employer and the county's population soared 800% to 285,000 when the statue was removed by newcomers who came from other parts of the country and had no comprehension of the statue's true heritage. Now, concerning the second point about Anglo-Saxon culture, consider that Abraham Lincoln himself wanted to stop the spread of slavery. He didn't want to just stop the spread of slavery, however. He wanted to keep blacks, not merely slaves, out of the Western territories. During a speech 7 years before the Civil War, he said, quote, "The whole nation is interested that the best use shall be made of these Western territories. We want them for the homes of free, white people. This they cannot be to any considerable extent if slavery shall be planted within them," close quote. Perhaps even more significant are the words of Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner, who was the most famous slavery abolitionist of his day, certainly the most famous within the Senate. Some readers will recognize him as the senator who was beaten at his desk in 1856 with a cane by a South Carolina congressman for making salacious accusations against the congressman's uncle, a South Carolina senator. Frederick Douglass, who was the Martin Luther King of his day, said of Senator Sumner, quote, "He was not only the most clear-sighted, uncompromising friend of my race who served in the Senate. He was to me a loved, honored, and precious personal friend." This is Frederick Douglass speaking of Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner. Yet in the 1869-1870 period, when President Ulysses Grant tried to annex the Dominican Republic and transform it into a state, no doubt a Republican state, Senator Sumner was opposed, partly because he, Sumner, wanted to keep America pure for the Anglo Saxon race. In a March 1870 speech, he said, quote, "America is an Anglo-Saxon republic and would ever remain so by the preponderance of that race. In contrast," and that's close quote, "in contrast, the Caribbean islands, quote, were colored communities," close quote. He explained that this was why America and the Dominican Republic had distinct nationalities that should be, quote, "preserved in its integrity," close quote. Preserve the American white race as it ruled during his period. He wanted to preserve that. And he wanted the Dominican Republic to preserve their government by Black race. That's racism. Charles Sumner of Massachusetts, a leading abolitionist, pure racism. According to Sumner, the Dominicans lived in the tropics because they were placed there, quote, "by providence," close quote. He argued that since Providence had originally put Dominicans and all Blacks in the tropical latitudes, they should never become North Americans. By alluding to Alexis de Tocqueville's analysis in the 1830s, Sumner argued that the, quote, "English race," close quote, would migrate beyond the circa 1830s Union borders to the north in Canada and to the west, but not the tropics. Quote, "Anglo-Americans," close quote, he wrote, quote, "will cover all the immense territory comprised between the polar ice and the tropics," close quote. He's saying white Americans from the northern, the ice sheets of the North Pole, all the way to the tropics. Anglo-Americans, Anglo-Saxons will control. This is Charles Sumner, a leading abolitionist from Massachusetts, the writer of the 1875 Civil Rights Act. Sumner and the man whom, what's his name? Frederick Douglass called his most treasured friend or something like that. I quoted it earlier. Sumner's fellow abolitionist senator from Vermont, Justin Morrill, echoed the Massachusetts senator's arguments, but was even more racist. The Dominicans, close quote, he said, quote, "never could become homogeneous with our people. They are grossly ignorant and superstitious, reeking of laziness. They would prove to us a serious political and moral as well as financial encumbrance," close quote. Vermont Senator just and moral, an abolitionist. And really one of the main reasons the Civil War came to be. Despite such racism, academics typically praise Morrill and Sumner as racially enlightened historical figures, more deserving of respect than the common Confederate soldier that answered his call to duty for his family with little or any thought to race. I think that really quite says it all. Now, again, Southern Reconstruction by Philip Lee, $26 on Amazon, $29 from me if you want an autographed copy. Email me, Phil, Phil _Lee, Leigh. Now, what's important about this book is nearly 90% of all the Reconstruction histories that you will get today out of the Academy focus 90% on the experience that as to how it affected Blacks. The 10% that they devote to whites is typically 90% focused on those whites that tried to interfere with the voting rights of the Blacks in the South. There is nothing that really coming out of the colleges and universities that looks at how Reconstruction affected the South or how the Northerners were corrupted by the Gilded Age that created a mentality of corruption and dishonesty that the carpetbaggers brought south when they came into the southern states to set up the puppet regimes in the South. Okay, that's our show for today, and thanks for watching.